there I was, standing amid the sea of proud parents and cheering graduates, my heart swelling as our son Alex strode across the stage in his cap and gown. The sun filtered through the auditorium windows, casting a warm glow on everything. But in that moment, it felt like ice creeping up my spine. Michael, my husband of over 2 decades, leaned in close, his breath hot against my ear. "Sarah, it's done," he murmured, slipping a thick envelope into my hand. I glanced down, my fingers numb as I recognized the stark black print, divorce papers. His mother, Evelyn, stood beside him, her face a mask of serene indifference, like she'd rehearsed this scene 100 times. The crowd's applause faded into a distant roar in my ears. I swallowed hard, forcing a steady gaze back at them both. "Funny," I whispered, my voice barely audible over the din, "because I have a little announcement of my own." That envelope felt like a bomb ticking in my palm, but as I clutched it, memories flooded back, not of rage, but of the quiet sacrifices that had built our life brick by silent brick. It all started in those hazy college days in Boston, where Michael and I first crossed paths in a cramped economics lecture hall. He was the guy with the easy laugh, the one who could charm a room without trying, his dark hair tousled and his eyes sparkling with ambition. I was the practical one, waitressing nights at a dingy diner to pay my tuition, scraping by on tips and instant noodles. But when our eyes met across the aisle, it was like the world sharpened into focus. We talked for hours after class, sharing dreams over cheap coffee. He wanted to build something big, a business empire that would lift us out of the struggle. I believed in him, more than I believed in myself sometimes. Our early years were a grind, but they were ours. We scraped together enough for a tiny walk-up apartment in a sketchy neighborhood, the kind where sirens wailed like lullabies. Michael was buried in his studies, poring over business plans while I pulled double shifts, my feet aching from endless hours on concrete floors. I'd come home at dawn, slip into bed beside him, and whisper, "We're gonna make it, Mike. Just keep pushing." And he did. I'd skip lunches so he could afford textbooks, mend his shirts with careful stitches when we couldn't buy new ones. When he landed his first entry-level gig at a startup, it felt like we'd won the lottery. We celebrated with a bottle of the cheapest wine, toasting to the future on our sagging couch. Then came Alex, our miracle in the midst of chaos. I was pregnant just as Michael's career started to take off. He promised me the stars, that he'd provide, that I'd never have to worry again. "You've carried us this far, Sarah," he'd say, kissing my forehead. "Now, let me carry you." So I stepped back, trading my apron for motherhood. I raised Alex with the kind of love that fills every corner of a home. Homemade meals, bedtime stories, school runs in our beat-up sedan. And Evelyn? She became part of our world too. Michael's mom had always been a force, widowed young, sharp-tongued but warm in her way. When she got sick a few years in, I insisted she move in with us. "Your family," I'd tell her, brewing her favorite chamomile tea, helping with her meds, listening to her stories of the old days. She'd pat my hand and say, "Sarah, you're the heart of this home. Don't know what we'd do without you." As Michael's business climbed, so did our life. We moved to a spacious house in the suburbs of Chicago, with a yard for Alex to play in and a kitchen that didn't leak. Michael's company, a tech firm specializing in logistics software, boomed. He was the visionary, closing deals, expanding offices. But with success came the shadows. The late nights at the office stretched into weekends away. "Just sealing this one deal. Babe," he'd text, his messages growing shorter, colder. I'd wait up, dinner cooling on the table, Alex already asleep. The intimacy faded too. Those stolen kisses in the hallway turned to pecks on the cheek. If that. He'd forget little things, my birthday, our inside jokes, the way I liked my coffee. His phone became a fortress, always buzzing, always angled away from my view. I chalked it up to stress at first. He's building our future, I tell myself, staring at my reflection in the bathroom mirror, tracing the faint lines around my eyes. Had I changed? Become too familiar? Too ordinary? I tried harder, new outfits, surprise date nights, but he'd wave them off. Not now.
Sarah.
Work's crazy. Evelyn noticed, but she'd just shrug. Men get like this when they're climbing a ladder. Give him space.
So I did.
I poured my energy into Alex, cheering at his soccer games, helping with homework, being the steady rock. But deep down, a quiet ache grew, like a crack in the foundation you ignore until the whole house shifts. Looking back, the red flags waved like banners in the wind. The unexplained charges on our credit card, fancy dinners I never attended, hotel stays in cities he claimed were for business. The way he'd smile at his phone in the middle of the night, a glow I'd once seen only for me. I wanted to confront him, but fear held me back. What if I was wrong? What if pushing too hard shattered everything? So I stayed silent, holding the family together with invisible threads, praying the man I loved would find his way back. But prayers don't always get answered the way you hope. And as Alex's graduation approached, that crack widened into a chasm, one that would swallow us all if I didn't act. The day before the ceremony, I finally cracked. Michael had left early for a meeting, but his jacket hung on the chair, a bulge in the pocket. I reached in, telling myself it was nothing, but my fingers closed around a slim burner phone. It wasn't locked. Arrogance, maybe, or carelessness. The screen lit up with texts from Jenna. Can't wait for tonight. When are you leaving her? My world tilted. I scrolled, each message a dagger, photos of them in hotel rooms, whispers of a future without me. She'd complain about the old ball and chain, and he'd laugh it off. Months of this, hidden right under our roof. I didn't shatter. Instead, a cold resolve settled in. I photographed everything, tucked the phone back, and sat in the quiet kitchen, letting the betrayal sink deep. Evelyn walked in then, her step slow. She saw my face and paused. Everything okay, dear? I met her eyes, searching for surprise. But there was none. Just a flicker of knowing. How long have you known? I asked, my voice steady. She sighed, pulling out a chair. A while now. It's complicated, Sarah. Complicated? The word echoed like a slap. She'd known, sat at our table, accepted my care, all while guarding his secret. The hurt burned, but it fueled something fiercer. That night, as Michael slept soundly beside me, I lay awake, plotting not revenge, but reclamation. The graduation tomorrow? It wouldn't just be Alex's milestone. It would be mine. The auditorium buzzed with post-ceremony chatter. Families hugging. Cameras flashing. Alex beamed, diploma in hand, oblivious to the storm brewing. Michael's envelope burned in my grip, his words still echoing. It's done. Evelyn's calm stare felt like complicity. Her silence louder than any confession. I forced a breath, tucking the papers away. Not here, I said softly, glancing at Alex weaving through the crowd toward us. Michael's jaw tightened, but he nodded, playing the proud father for the photos. Inside, though, the pieces clicked, the affair, Evelyn's knowledge, the life they'd planned without me. But they didn't know I'd already started rewriting the script. That burner phone discovery had been the spark. but the fire had been smoldering for years. After photographing the evidence, I'd slipped out to meet an old college friend, Rachel, now a divorce attorney in the city. We sat in her sleek office overlooking the Chicago skyline, the kind of place that screamed power. I laid it all out, the texts, the lies, the way Michael had grown distant. Rachel listened, her pen tapping thoughtfully. Sarah, this isn't just emotional. It's financial warfare. What's the asset picture? That's when I remembered the old agreement, buried in our safe like a forgotten relic. Back when Michael's company was a fledgling startup teetering on bankruptcy, he'd panicked. Creditors circled. Lawsuits loomed. Put it in your name, he'd begged one rainy night. Papers spread across our kitchen table. If things go south, they can't touch it if it's yours. I trust you, Sarah, more than anyone. I'd signed without hesitation, transferring 65% ownership to me as a shield. We were partners then, unbreakable. As the business soared, he promised to switch it back. But life got busy, expansions, mergers, Alex's milestones. It slipped his mind, or maybe he assumed I'd never use it.
But now
it was my leverage. Rachel's eyes gleamed as she reviewed the docs. This is gold. He can't touch the company without your say. And with the affair proof, we can argue infidelity clauses if your prenup has them. We didn't have a prenup. Young love didn't think that far, but Illinois law favored equitable distribution. And with my ownership stake, I held the cards. We mapped it out, freeze joint accounts, file for control of the shares, demand full disclosure of hidden assets. But keep it quiet, Rachel advised. Let him think you're crumbling. Then strike. I nodded. A quiet strength building. For the first time, I wasn't just reacting, I was leading. Back home, I played the part flawlessly. Michael came in late that night, reeking of unfamiliar perfume. Long day, I asked casually. Setting dinner plates. He grunted, avoiding my eyes. Evelyn hovered in the living room, flipping through a magazine like nothing was amiss. I served them both, smiling through the ache. Alex is so excited for tomorrow, I said, steering conversation light. Michael relaxed, assuming my silence meant surrender. But as I washed dishes later, Evelyn approached. You holding up, dear? Her tone dripped false concern. I dried my hands slowly. Why wouldn't I be? She hesitated, then whispered, Michael, he's just going through something. It'll pass. Pass? Like a storm that wrecks everything in its path. I turned to face her, my voice low. You knew about Jenna,
didn't you?
Her face paled, but she didn't deny it. I found out a few months ago. He's my son.
Sarah.
I couldn't betray him. Betray him? The irony twisted like a knife. And what about me? The woman who nursed you through chemo, who hosted your birthdays, who treated you like blood? Tears welled in her eyes, but they felt hollow. I thought you'd understand eventually. Jenna makes him happy. She's young, vibrant. Sometimes love fades. Fades? Our love hadn't faded. It had been starved. I bit back the rage, forcing calm. Thanks for the honesty, Evelyn. At least now I know where we stand. She reached for my arm, but I stepped away. That conversation sealed it. She wasn't family. She was an ally in his deception. The next morning, graduation day dawned crisp and clear. I helped Alex with his tie, hugging him tight. Proud of you, kiddo, I whispered. He grinned. No clue of the undercurrents. Michael was all business. Suit pressed, envelope tucked in his pocket, like a weapon. Evelyn chatted amiably in the car, but her glances my way held wariness. At the venue, we posed for pictures, The perfect family facade. As Alex crossed the stage, pride swelled genuine and fierce. This was his day. I wouldn't let Michael steal it entirely. But as the crowd dispersed, Michael made his move, handing over the papers with that cold whisper. Evelyn nodded subtly, her approval clear. The gasps from nearby families hung in the air. Alex froze, confusion etching his face. I met Michael's gaze, then Evelyn's, and felt the damning emotions rise. Hurt, betrayal, fury, but beneath it, resolve. Like I said, I murmured, I have something too. Michael's brow furrowed. Sarah, don't make a scene. I smiled faintly. Oh, I won't. Not yet. We drove home in tense silence, Alex shooting worried looks. That night, alone in my room, I finalized the paperwork with Rachel. The bomb was armed. Tomorrow, I'd detonate. The drive home from the graduation felt eternal, the envelope's weight pulling at my thoughts like gravity. Michael's knuckles whitened on the wheel, Evelyn fidgeting in the back, Alex silent and wide-eyed beside me. No one spoke, the air thick with unspoken accusations. But inside, I was a storm-gathering force, slow, deliberate, ready to unleash. They'd ambush me in public, thinking I'd fold. They didn't know I'd been fortifying my defenses for weeks. After Evelyn's confession in the kitchen, I'd retreated to my study, the room where I'd once helped Michael brainstorm his business ideas. Now it was my war room. I pored over financial statements, unearthing more secrets, offshore accounts in Michael's name, lavish gifts to Jenna traced through receipts. Rachel guided me via late-night calls. Document everything, she urged. Build an ironclad case. I did. Methodically, my hands steady despite the heartache. Sleep evaded me, but clarity sharpened. This wasn't just about the affair, it was about reclaiming what I'd built, what I'd sacrificed. A few days before graduation, I confronted the reality head-on. I drove to Evelyn's condo, the one we'd helped her buy with company profits years ago. She opened the door in her robe, surprise flickering before settling into resignation. Sarah, I wasn't expecting you. I stepped inside without invitation, the familiar scent of her lavender candles cloying now. We sat in her sunlit living room, the same spot where we'd shared laughs over tea. Tell me everything, I said, voice even. She sighed deeply, folding her hands. What do you want to know? All of it.
How long?
Why hide it? It poured out then, slow at first, then rushing. Michael had met Jenna at a conference a year ago, young, ambitious, a marketing exec with stars in her eyes. She reminded him of his youth, Evelyn said, almost wistfully. He confided in me early on, begged me not to tell you. I leaned forward, pulse thumping. And you agreed? After everything I've done for you? Her eyes dropped. He's my only child.
Sarah.
I saw him unhappy.
Trapped.
I thought, maybe this was his chance at joy. Trapped? The word ignited something primal. Unhappy? I supported him through nothing. Built this life brick by brick while he chased dreams. She nodded weakly. You did.
But people change.
Jenna brings out a side of him I haven't seen since he was young. The betrayal deepened. Not just Michael's, but hers, the woman I'd called Mom in quiet moments. You watched me suffer, I whispered, voice cracking for the first time. The late nights, the distance. You knew and said nothing. Tears tracked her cheeks. I tried to hint, but I couldn't break his trust.
Trust.
The irony burned. I stood, composure cracking but holding. Well, you've chosen your side. Remember that when this unravels, She called after me as I left. But I didn't turn. The door clicked shut like a finality. Back home, I channeled the pain into action. Rachel and I filed emergency motions to assert my ownership over the company's shares, to freeze assets, to demand full financial audits. He'll fight, she warned. But with the infidelity evidence, courts will lean your way. I nodded, envisioning Michael's face when the truth hit. Meanwhile, I kept the facade. Breakfast for Alex. Polite nods to Michael. He grew bolder, whispering calls to Jenna in the hallway, assuming my silence meant defeat. Evelyn visited less, her guilt palpable. Graduation morning. I dressed carefully, elegant dress, makeup masking the exhaustion. Alex chattered excitedly, easing the tension. At the ceremony, as he accepted his diploma, tears pricked my eyes, genuine pride amid the chaos. Then Michael's move, the envelope, the whisper, Evelyn's stoic support. The public humiliation stung, whispers rippling through the crowd. Alex's face crumpled. Dad? Mom? Michael shot him a look. Later. Son. But I squeezed Alex's hand. It's okay. We'll talk. That evening, back in our echoing house, Michael cornered me in the kitchen. Sign the papers.
Sarah.
Let's end this cleanly. Evelyn lingered nearby, nodding encouragement. I met his eyes. The man I'd loved, now a stranger. Cleanly? After ambushing me in front of everyone. He shrugged. You forced my hand by snooping. Snooping?
The audacity fueled me.
Actually, I said softly, pulling out my own folder from the drawer. I've been busy too. I slid it across the ownership docs, the filed motions, the affair screenshots. His face drained of color as he read. What the hell is this? Your oversight, I replied. The company? Still mine. 65%. I've taken control. Evelyn gasped. Sarah. No, you can't. I turned to her. I can. And I have. Michael's hands shook. This will ruin me. Ruin him? After he'd planned to leave me with scraps? The damning emotions crested, years of loyalty repaid with deceit. But I held steady. You ruined us first. Alex entered then, eyes wide. What's going on? I pulled him close.
Your dad and I.
We're parting ways. But know this. I fought for what's right. Michael stormed out. Evelyn trailing, her alliance cracking. Alone with Alex. I exhaled. The storm finally breaking. But this was just the surge. The full torrent was coming. The kitchen air hung heavy after my revelation. Michael's folder crumpled in his fist. Evelyn's face a portrait of dawning regret. Alex stood frozen in the doorway, the graduation cap still perched awkwardly on his head. Mom?
Dad.
His voice cracked, pulling at my heartstrings. I moved to him, wrapping him in a hug. It's complicated, sweetie, but we'll get through it. Michael shot me a venomous glare. This isn't over. Sarah. He grabbed his keys and left, Evelyn hurrying after, whispering placations. The door slammed, echoing like a gunshot. I sank into a chair, the adrenaline fading into quiet resolve. The battle lines were drawn, but I'd fired the first real shot. The next days blurred into legal skirmishes. Michael's lawyer called incessantly, blustering about misunderstandings and amicable settlements. Rachel countered fiercely, her voice a steel blade over the phone. They want mediation? Fine. But we hold the high ground. We met in a sterile conference room downtown. Michael across the table, eyes hollow. Jenna's absence screaming louder than words. Evelyn sat beside him, wringing her hands. Sarah, please think of the family. Family? The word tasted bitter now. Rachel laid out the facts. My majority stake. Untouched for years. The affair's proof undermining his claims. Hidden assets we'd traced to Cayman accounts. Michael's face twisted. You tricked me into that transfer. No, I said calmly. You asked. To protect what we built together. He leaned forward, desperate. Give me half. Let's split cleanly. Rachel interjected. 65% is hers. Plus alimony. Child support for Alex's college. Equitable. Considering the infidelity. Evelyn pleaded. He's your husband. Was. I corrected softly. The mediator nodded toward me. We walked out with temporary orders. Company control to me. Assets frozen. Michael's empire? Suspended in limbo. Words spread like wildfire. Friends called. Shocked. Colleagues whispered. Alex struggled most. We talked late into nights. Him on the couch. Me beside. Why? Mom? Wasn't Dad happy? I chose honesty. Tempered. Sometimes people lose their way.
But you?
You're my priority. He hugged me tight. I'm with you. His support anchored me as Michael's pleas turned frantic. Texts begging forgiveness. Voicemails promising change. I was stupid.
Sarah.
Jenna's gone. Realized she was a mistake.
Gone?
Convenient. I ignored them, focusing on the company. I stepped in as interim CEO, surprising the board with my grasp. Years of overhearing Michael's calls paid off. Profits held. Employees respected the shift. Evelyn tried bridging, showing up unannounced with casseroles. I messed up, she admitted one rainy afternoon. Tears streaming. I thought I was helping him. But I hurt you worst. Hurt didn't cover it. The betrayal from her cut deepest. A maternal wound. Why side with him? I asked.
She sighed.
Mothers protect their sons. Blindly. Sometimes. I nodded. But distance lingered. I forgive. But trust? That's earned. She left quieter. The gap between us vast. As weeks turned months, Michael's facade crumbled. Without company access, his business trips dried up. Jenna vanished for good, chasing greener pastures. He moved to a drab apartment. The luxury cars repossessed under audits. Friends distanced, his reputation tarnished. One night, he showed at our door, disheveled. Sarah, please, I'm losing everything. Everything? I'd lost my marriage. My illusions. You chose this, I said, closing the door gently but firmly. Alex's college send-off loomed, a bittersweet milestone. We packed his dorm stuff, laughing over old photos. Proud of you,
Mom, he said.
for standing up. His words healed cracks I didn't know existed. At the airport, hugs lingered. Call anytime, I whispered. Alone. The house felt empty, but free. I sold my company shares to a buyer, pocketing millions.
With it,
I bought a cozy bungalow by the lake, started a consulting firm for women in business. Dates trickled in, but I savored solitude first. Michael faded into periphery, sporadic visits with Alex, a shadow of his former self. Evelyn reached out tentatively. We met for coffee. Mending slowly. Not close, but civil. As I sat on my porch one evening, sunset painting the water gold, reflection hit. Betrayal had shattered me. But in the rebuild, I'd forged something unbreakable. Strength not from revenge, but reclamation. What price loyalty? And when it's broken, do we owe forgiveness, or just ourselves? The lake house porch became my sanctuary. The water's gentle lap a soothing rhythm against the chaos I'd left behind. Months post-divorce finalization, life settled into a new groove, quieter.
but mine.
The settlement?
Fair.
By Rachel's design, I kept my share proceeds. Alimony covered Alex's tuition. Michael got scraps to rebuild. He slunk away to a mid-level job in another state, his empire a memory. Jenna vanished like smoke. Confirming what I'd suspected, she chased the shine.
Not the man.
Evelyn's olive branches grew frequent. Cards. Calls. A tentative lunch. We met at a quaint cafe. Her hands trembling around her cup. I see now how wrong I was, she admitted, eyes downcast. Blinded by blood. I sipped my latte, weighing words. It hurt. Evelyn.
Deeply.
But life's too short for grudges. We didn't hug, but the air lightened. Over time, we built a fragile bridge, holiday cards, occasional visits. Not mom anymore, but a cautious peace. Alex thrived at college, calling weekly with stories of classes.
Friends.
Dad's trying, he'd say. But I'm glad you're happy, Mom. His maturity astonished. The ordeal forged him too. I dated sparingly, a kind architect. Laughter over wine, but focused on self. Yoga classes, book clubs, volunteering at women's shelters. You inspire me, one mentee said, echoing my journey. One crisp fall day, Michael emailed. Can we talk? Foreclosure. Curiosity won. We met at a neutral park bench. He looked older. Lines etched deep. I was a fool, he started. Voice rough. Lost sight of what mattered. I nodded. We both paid. No apologies could erase the scars. But hearing his regret closed a chapter. Take care, I said, walking away lighter.
Now.
As I watch sunsets from my porch, questions linger. How thin is the line between love and betrayal? Does forgiveness heal? Or just allow growth? I've grown stronger, wiser, unapologetically me. The woman who once whispered support now roars her own story. And in that, there's power.